In a high-rise office in Chicago, a quiet woman was humiliated, filmed, and laughed at, all because she didn't wear designer heels or play their cruel games. But behind her silence was a name, a power. And when they pushed her too far, she made one call. It happened on the 27th floor of a glass tower in downtown Chicago, just after 3 p.m., when the world tipped sideways. The floor was slick with silence. Then, splat. A can of Coke exploded across Rachel Carter's back. A stunned gasp, laughter. A chair screeched. Someone shouted, "Ooh, that's gonna leave a stain!" And it did. Not just on her sweater, but on every name in that office. Rachel didn't scream, didn't cry. She just stood there, drenched in soda, cheeks burning, lips parted like she was trying to breathe through smoke. Her fingers curled slightly, not in rage, but restraint. Everyone saw a woman humiliated. No one noticed the way her eyes fixed forward. Sharp, steady, like glass right before it shatters. Jessica Hayes, heels clicking like gunshots, sauntered past with a mock gasp. "Oops," she smirked. Did the office charity case forget her? Umbrella, phones were out, recording, snickering. Mark Reynolds flicked Rachel's notebook off her desk. Lauren Kim live-streamed the whole thing, captioned, "When Goodwill Girls Pretend They Belong." No one knew who Rachel really was. Not yet. They just saw a quiet woman in a dated cardigan taking the train to work, eating leftovers from home and saying thank you too much. They mistook kindness for weakness, silence for surrender, simplicity for shame. But stories like these never end the way bullies expect. Just 10 minutes later, the elevator would ding, and when the doors opened, it wouldn't be HR. It would be her husband. And when he stepped out, tailored, towering, and terrifyingly calm, the room would forget how to breathe. But before all that, there was Rachel. Just Rachel, the woman everyone mocked, the woman who didn't belong, the woman who kept her secrets quiet because she knew some storms don't make noise until they break. Didn't start with a Coke can. It started with a sweater. Nice knit, Rachel. Vintage or just old. Jessica Hayes' voice was sugar-laced poison, loud enough for the entire morning meeting to pause. Rachel, already halfway through a spreadsheet correction, didn't look up. Her hand kept moving, scribbling down margin notes. Her gray cardigan, a hand-me-down from her late aunt, hugged her shoulders like a shield. "No, really," Jessica pressed. "Where'd you get it? Grandma's yard sale?" Laughter. Controlled, at first. Then Mark chimed in. "If you listen closely, you can hear the poverty." Rachel's pen paused. A small exhale. But no reply. The office, with its glass walls and marble accents, was a theater. And she was cast as the prop, the unremarkable extra behind the glamorous leads. She didn't belong, and they made sure she never forgot it. At first, it was subtle. Whispers in the hallway. Coffee cups accidentally knocked over. Lauren snapping photos of Rachel's tote bag and uploading them with hashtags like thrift chick and office charity. By week 3, someone had scribbled "Boring Betty" on her coffee mug with a Sharpie. By week 6, the attacks turned public. Like today, Jessica strutted over during lunch hour, heels stabbing the floor with rhythm. She dumped a stack of irrelevant folders on Rachel's desk like a waitress slamming down dirty dishes. "We thought you could handle the grunt work," she cooed. "Since you're not really built for client-facing roles." Rachel glanced up. The files were outdated proposals, half in the wrong format. Nothing she needed. "I've got my deadlines," she said gently, nudging them aside. Jessica's eyes gleamed. She turned to Mark and Lauren, her audience ready. "She thinks she's too good now. Tell me, Rach, what's your deal? No friends? No flair? You just show up in your Salvation Army specials and hope no one notices?" Mark leaned across the cubicle wall. "She probably rides the bus from whatever basement she rents. 5 roommates in a shared bathroom. Classic background. NPC. Lauren giggled and lifted her phone. "Smile, Rachel. My followers live for this kind of content. Rachel sat still, her hands hidden under the desk, fingers clenched so tightly her knuckles went white. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but fatigue, the kind of soul-deep exhaustion that comes from being made small again and again. She didn't hate them. That would require too much energy. She pitied them, their shallowness, their desperation to be seen. But that didn't stop the sting. The final jab came from someone who should have known better. Brian Foster, the team lead. He leaned into her cubicle with that practiced smirk, half mentor, half mean kid with a clipboard. If you're not contributing, Carter, maybe punch out early. We don't carry dead weight. He tossed a sticky note on her desk. It read, "Try. Harder." The others roared. Rachel stood slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "I always do." She walked to the break room, not in defeat, but to breathe, to survive one more hour. Her fingers hovered over her phone. One number. That's all it would take. But she waited. Waited because she still believed she could fix this herself, because asking for help felt like surrender. Outside, Chicago's sky darkened. A storm was building. Inside, so was Rachel. The break room was quiet, but Rachel's mind wasn't. She stood with her back to the fridge, gripping her phone like it might shatter in her hand. Her cardigan clung to her damp back, still sticky from the soda. Her heart beat loud in her ears. The laughter still echoed, somewhere between memory and torment. She stared at the screen. One name, Nathan. She hadn't wanted this. She hadn't told anyone at Pinnacle about him. Not because she was ashamed. How could she be? Nathan Pierce was one of the most respected men in the Midwest. A self-made billionaire, founder of Pierce Enterprises. He didn't inherit his empire. He built it, but she wanted to earn her way. On her own, without the shadow of his name, she hit call. It rang once. Raw. His voice, steady, warm, grounding. She broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in that quiet, aching way when the soul bends too far. "They poured Coke on me," she whispered. Laughed, filmed it. Silence. Nathan's voice dropped, cool and hard. "Where are you?" "At the office. Pinnacle. I'm 10 minutes out. Don't move." The call ended. She stared at the screen, her breath shaky. Then, she straightened, brushed down her cardigan, wiped her cheeks, walked back to her desk like nothing happened. Jessica was waiting. Well, back so soon?" she purred. "Didn't find the self-respect aisle in the break room vending machine?" Rachel sat down. Didn't answer. Her screen glowed with spreadsheets. She typed, calmly, deliberately, as if something far bigger than all of them had already been set in motion. The air shifted. 9 minutes passed. Then, ding. The elevator doors slid open, heads turned, jaws dropped, 6'2", charcoal suit, designer watch, hair slicked back, eyes sharp as winter. Nathan Pierce stepped into the office like a force of nature. He didn't need to raise his voice. He was the voice. Jessica blinked. Mark stood frozen. Lauren's phone dropped from her hand. Brian stood halfway up from his chair, already sweating. Nathan didn't look at them. Didn't need to. He walked straight to Rachel's desk. "Are you ready to go?" His voice was soft, but everyone heard it. Rachel looked up. Almost. She collected her bag slowly, gracefully, as if she had all the time in the world. Nathan didn't rush her. He waited. Hand in his pocket, gaze steady. Jessica recovered first. She stepped forward, smile practiced sugary. "Mr. Pierce, hi. I'm Jessica Hayes, account manager. We weren't expecting you. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" He ignored her. Turned to the room. "Who's been giving my wife a hard time?" The word wife hit the room like thunder. Jessica's smile collapsed. Mark coughed. Lauren stumbled backward. Brian clutched the edge of his desk like a man caught in a landslide. "A wife?" Jessica stammered. She never said. Did she have to? Nathan's voice snapped like frostbite. She's here to work, not flaunt who she married. But you judged her anyway. Silence. Palpable. Dense. Nathan's voice dropped lower, cutting deeper. She came here every day. Did her job, said nothing. While you... He pointed, calm and cold. Mocked her, belittled her, filmed her like a circus act. He turned to Rachel. You want to stay here or are we done? She looked up at him. Not from beneath. Not with shame. As an equal. I'm done. Good. Then he turned back to them. Jessica Hayes, Mark Reynolds, Lauren Kim, Brian Foster. You're fired, effective immediately. Jessica choked on her breath. You can't do that. Nathan didn't flinch. I own the board that owns this company. I can do whatever I damn well please. Brian stepped forward, desperation dripping from his voice. Sir, I've been here 5 years, and you let this happen under your nose. You're done. Security entered, silent and stone-faced. Jessica screamed. Mark cursed. Lauren whimpered. Brian didn't speak again. Rachel stood, calm, serene, not vindictive, above it. Nathan reached out, took her hand. Let's go home. She nodded, and together they walked to the elevator, leaving behind silence, shattered egos, and the ruins of cruelty. The elevator doors closed behind them with a soft chime. Rachel didn't look back. Not at the desks that once mocked her. Not at the faces that used to laugh. Not even at the silence they left behind. Nathan's hand was warm in hers. His fury had settled now. No longer a storm, but a quiet, impenetrable calm. Outside, Chicago was just as it always was. Indifferent, towering, alive. But inside that building, something had shifted. Like a fault line had cracked beneath a polished floor, exposing everything. By Monday, the story had spread. No press release was issued, no memo sent. But somehow, everyone knew that the quiet girl in the cardigan was Rachel Pierce, wife of the Nathan Pierce, mathematical prodigy, co-founder of his first algorithm startup, and the woman who walked out of the 27th floor with grace while 4 careers turned to dust. Jessica tried to spin the story on LinkedIn the next day. Today I learned a powerful lesson about humility, leadership, and kindness from someone I once underestimated. I'm grateful for the growth. The post was ratioed into oblivion. One comment had 12,000 likes. You poured soda on her, sit down. Mark uploaded a video rant calling the office culture toxic and claimed he was the real victim. It got flagged for harassment and removed within the hour. Lauren? She ghosted the internet completely. One day she was an influencer with sponsorships. The next, nothing. Even her TikTok bio went blank. And Brian, he didn't even try. Just disappeared. His LinkedIn quietly updated to looking for new opportunities, but no one bit. No company wanted to touch them. Rachel's silence had more power than their screams ever did. But the real twist? She never came back to Pinnacle. She didn't need to. Her inbox was flooded. Offers from competitors, invitations to speak at conferences, even universities wanting her as a guest lecturer on ethical data use and team resilience. She said no to them all. Instead, she started something smaller, quieter, hers. A freelance consulting firm, just her and a laptop, helping small businesses understand data, market smarter, grow without noise. She called it Clearline Analytics. No fanfare, no press. But word spread fast, because people trusted her, not just because of her name, but because of how she had carried it. Meanwhile, the office she'd left behind reshaped itself around her shadow. Those who had laughed now whispered. The ones who stayed silent during the bullying kept their heads down. Some tried to make amends. One emailed her. "I'm sorry I didn't speak up." Rachel replied only once. "I remember, it wasn't bitterness, just truth." She forgave, but she didn't forget. At home, she and Nathan resumed their quiet rituals. Tea in the evening, books on the balcony, arguments over which movie to watch on Fridays. "You didn't have to do all that," Rachel said one night, curled into him, a sweater pulled over her knees. Not the cardigan, a new one, still simple, still her. I didn't destroy them. Nathan replied, "They did that all by themselves." Rachel smiled, her hazel eyes soft, distant. "You just made sure they felt it." Friday evening. The city pulsed below them, lights blinking like a million tiny stories trying to be heard. Rachel sat curled on the balcony of their penthouse, her legs tucked beneath her, a soft sweater draped across her shoulders. No makeup, no press, just her. Nathan handed her a mug of tea, steam curling into the night air. He didn't speak right away. He never rushed her. That's what she loved most about him. He was a storm when he had to be, but with her, he was a lake. They sat in silence for a while, watching the skyline flicker. Then Rachel said, almost absently, "It still feels strange." Nathan glanced over. "What does?" "That people know. Now, who I am, who you are to me. Like, suddenly I've become interesting to them." Nathan smiled but didn't laugh. "You were always interesting. They just didn't have the eyes to see." She looked down at her cup. "Sometimes I wonder if I should have just told them from the start. Saved myself all that humiliation." "No," he said, firm but gentle. "Because then they would have respected you because of me, not because of you." Rachel nodded slowly. She already knew that. Deep down, she'd always known. That's why she never wore the name like armor. That's why she let herself be tested. And in the end, they had failed. Not her. She sipped her tea. "You know what still surprises me?" "What?" "That I don't hate them. Jessica, Mark, Lauren, even Brian." Nathan turned to her. "You don't?" She shook her head. "They weren't evil, just empty. They needed someone to look down on. I was easy to pick. Quiet, plain, convenient. And now," he asked, "they're the inconvenient ones." They both chuckled at that. Across the street, a billboard lit up. Ironically, it was an ad for a rival marketing firm. "Empathy is the new edge." Rachel smiled at the irony. Empathy. That's what they had lacked. That's what made them small. She reached for her phone, scrolled through a few emails. One from a nonprofit looking for help understanding donation patterns. Another from a single dad trying to scale his online store. That was her world now. Not boardrooms or corner offices. Real people, real problems, real impact. Rachel Pierce, the quiet one, the forgettable one, the one who took the bus and wore old cardigans, had become something much bigger than her title. She had become a mirror for a broken culture. And in her reflection, others were beginning to see the cracks. She leaned into Nathan, her head resting against his shoulder. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For never making me feel like I had to be anyone else." He kissed her temple. "I didn't marry someone to impress the world. I married the woman who taught me statistics in college, who made me believe I could build something before anyone else did." Rachel's eyes shimmered in the glow of the city. She had walked into that office alone, small in their eyes. She had left it the same size. But now, the world saw what she'd always known. Dignity doesn't need an audience. Strength doesn't scream. And some women don't rise because they were never beneath you to begin with. They never saw her coming because they never bothered to look. But now, her name echoes in every hallway they once ruled, not because she shouted, but because she stood still and let their own ugliness collapse the floor beneath them. Rachel didn't win by fighting dirty. She won by being undeniably herself, kind, brilliant, and unshakably whole. In a world that rewards noise, her silence rewrote the rules. So the next time someone in your office gets laughed at for being too simple, too quiet, too humble, watch closely, because she might be the one holding all the cards. If this story moved you, leave a comment. What would you have done in Rachel's shoes? Hit that like button to support real stories about justice and dignity. Share this with someone who needs to remember their worth. And don't forget to Subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us being underestimated is the greatest power of all.